Welcome back here to the GioMoShow on 88.3 FM WXOU. Giovanni Moscieri here as your host and sports media director of WXOU Sports. And we're here to give you the football therapy you need. The GioMoShow NFL segment starts right now. We're going to be talking about the Detroit Lions. They played on Monday Night Football against the Las Vegas Raiders. They were coming off a huge, embarrassing loss to the Baltimore Ravens. And surely everybody could tell by the matchup. I believe the spread was about 8 points or something along those lines. So you knew the Lions were going to be given a get-right game. A BOGO, if you will. Well, I guess that wouldn't count as a BOGO because you buy this one and you get the next one free. This week's a bye week, so I guess that would carry on to the Chargers. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm not claiming a BOGO for this one. But either way, my point is that the Lions had a get-right game against the Las Vegas Raiders. So for that game, I was not able to watch it as I was at the arena watching our men's basketball team take down Wayne State. However, I was hearing some news about the game. Jahmyr Gibbs shows up for the Detroit Lions finally. He gets a big showcase. He gets a big carry of the load in the backfield as David Montgomery was still unable to play in the game. So it was great to see him get that spark to finally catch fire in the season, and we've just been waiting for him to do so all season long. So he's finally done it. He's proven it. He's got the speed. He's got the versatility. He's got everything you need, and he's got everything that we were predicting him to have coming out of the draft. So I do want it to be known and understood. Like I said before, I didn't watch the game necessarily, so we're kind of going to go off of what I see as the box score. So, and I followed a little bit of the flow of the game as well. I know that the Lions seem to struggle a little bit in the game, despite the wonderful things about Jahmyr Gibbs that I was talking about. Lions offense just didn't seem right. Few trips to the red zone, few field goals, 3 in a row to start. Raiders, they got close with a touchdown. Or yes, they got trying to remember if that one was the pick six or not. But there was a Raiders touchdown that got the game pretty close. And then a pick six happens. Maybe these things are out of order. Forgive me. But it was a little bit of a sloppy game. As the overall takeaway, the overall message from what I was hearing from everybody, we still won by double digits. Yes, we won by 12 points at home on Monday Night Football. But it didn't feel right. It didn't feel dominant. It didn't feel the way that we're used to. It didn't feel like the game against the Falcons or against the Buccaneers. Something was off. And you can put that on some injuries. You can put that on the missing David Montgomery, who was a real engine to their offense earlier in the season. One of the big reasons why Jahmyr Gibbs was believed to not have many touches is because Montgomery was working. He had 3 touchdowns against Green Bay. And I meant to mention that in the games at which we dominated, that little list I was giving out earlier. But he wasn't out there. We were missing some of the offensive line. We still got the job done, but it didn't look as pretty. It was kind of a playing down to your opponent and just making sure you got out the win no matter how it looked. But what that results in is the same win as if you were to get it by 40 points. Now, that doesn't mean much in terms, that doesn't have the same effect on people's power rankings, but the record's the record. You don't get to the playoffs by being high in the power rankings. You do it by winning the division, which is done by having a good record. Let's keep it simple here. But still felt like it was weird. Still feel a little bit vulnerable, but that's what the bye week's for. You get a chance to get healthy. You get a chance to have an extra week of rest to get all those guys that I was talking about being injured. You have a good chance to get them back. And you continue the season with one of the easier schedules in the NFL. The game coming out of the bye is going to be against the Chargers. And then from there, you got 2 games against the Bears. You got one. We'll talk just division here. You got every game besides the away Lambeau game that we already played. So that's 5 games against, especially with the Vikings, really weakened opponents. We'll call it soft divisional opponents. So that's 5 right there. Chargers are vulnerable too. They can get hot in a hurry, but they don't seem to finish. They don't seem to live up to the roster potential they have acquired for themselves over the past few years. So you got a winnable game there. Cowboys really seem to be the only ones that is going to be a huge test. And I believe, I'm going off the top of my head with the schedule, but Broncos and Saints are in there too. So you got a really favorable schedule going into the rest of the season coming out of this bye week. So now I believe is the time. And the time to bring up now the trade deadline. And you know, a lot of talk is about the fact that now is the time. Is about the fact that we have the schedule that has a pathway to get us to the number 1 seed in the NFC, which means the Super Bowl runs through Ford Field. The fantasy dream that everybody has been wanting ever since Ford Field opened. It's the one that I've been wanting for a long time, but never thought was possible until now. But at the trade deadline, all we got was Donovan Peoples-Jones for a 6th-round pick. Very fine pick. Or very fine pickup, I should say. Donovan Peoples-Jones is a very, very decent receiver. He had about 800 yards with the Browns one season, and you know, coming back home, you know, you got the bring him home thing going on. And a good receiver, a good pickup for a low price. Totally fine with it. But what else happened at the trade deadline? Because that's all the Lions did. So in the meantime, you saw the Philadelphia Eagles pick up the former All-Pro safety from the Titans. I don't remember their names, but they got a huge addition to their defense in an area that has been lacking for a little bit of this season. The secondary. You get the Seattle Seahawks picking up the D-tackle from the Giants. You have then the 49ers picking up Chase Young for a 3rd-round conditional pick, which I believe goes through because of his physical. So you have 3 playoff contending, playoff competition teams now upgrading on defense in particular. The Lions have a small upgrade on offense, but relative, those teams kind of jumped you. The Bears also got the other DN from Washington, Montez Sweat, which I think is an awesome name. They were able to snag him, and looking more into it, Bears got a lot of money coming in, and it seems to be a good move, considering the edge rushing talent in this upcoming draft, as I've been told. So all those NFC teams made defensive moves. I'm not saying the Bears are going to be a threat, but they still upgraded. So I thought about this, and I knew that there was a metaphor somewhere that could describe the feeling that I'm feeling with how this has gone by. So the Lions have shown, and is very apparent, that their strategy is to build a team through the draft, do it slowly with a solid foundation that can lead to winning for years to come, that can lead to consistent winning, as opposed to a flash in the pan. We're talking about a seared steak here, is what Brad Holmes wants to be cooking up. But here's my analogy. Here's my metaphor. Here's my way to describe this. So, the Lions are trying to do this the right way. Let's think of this with powerlifting and weightlifting. So, the Lions are eating right. They're doing the recommended amount of calories. They're getting the recommended amount of sleep. And they're doing what's best for their overall health to achieve, or they're achieving their goals in a way that will best preserve their health as an organization and as a weightlifter, to keep with the metaphor. But then you got the other teams, like the 49ers, the Seahawks, and the Eagles. And they're strong as well, but they use a little bit of extra stuff. They use some of that creatine. They use some of that secret sauce to help them lift more. And when you're in a competition, let's pretend that the ethics of certain supplements are disregarded. Let's disregard that for a moment. So you have the Lions that are eating right and doing it right in a competition against the team that is of a similar caliber but has a little bit of an extra boost. The team with the extra boost is going to lift more, regardless of the reason why. If they're using that stuff, they're going to lift more, and they're going to win. So where do you want to hang your hat? Do you want to do it the right way and make it to the divisional round every year, but then lose to the team that has been upgrading and getting that boost? Or do you want to take that ethical boost, we'll say ethical, and we'll take that boost to actually win? I hope this is making sense to everybody, because it makes sense to me. But basically what I'm trying to say is that you can do it the right way and you can do it for long-term success, but if it's not going to beat the teams in your competition, then what good is it? What's the point of building for 3, 4, 5 years if you're just going to be beaten by the team that has that spike and loaded up and has that one shot to get to the Super Bowl and makes it? Think back to the Rams when they won the Super Bowl with that super team of theirs. They plugged in. You got that big extra boost in adding Matthew Stafford along with Von Miller. You know, they have those extra boosts. They went all in. They effed them picks. They were able to beat a team like Green Bay that has been that perennial winner, that has been that long-term success team. And I believe they played the Packers, but either way, so we'll use them as an example. So even though the Packers have had that long-term success, they still got beaten by the team that went all in that 1 year. And the Packers didn't win anything. And nobody cares how good they were in the regular season because it didn't lead to anything in the playoffs. So that's what I'm worried about with not necessarily just this trade deadline, but that kind of mindset. You got to be aggressive sometimes. You got to strike when the iron's hot. The iron is hot this season. And there were opportunities to get some defensive line help with Chase Young or Montez Sweat or even whoever the Giants took or whoever the Seahawks took from the Giants. So I hope that the gamble that Brad Holmes has been making on this defensive line ends up working out. Of course I hope that. But will it be enough to beat the teams that made those additions? Well, that's what we're going to have to wait and see when it comes to the playoffs. Hopefully they have to come to us to make that happen. So I hope you guys were able to follow along with some of that logic. I was able to follow it well, so at least there's that. But I digress. So taking a quick look, we'll make this one quick, through the scoreboard of the NFL in Week 8, from the 25th to the 31st. Excuse me. So you got the Cowboys beating the crap out of the Rams. You have the Bills winning an ugly one against the Buccaneers. You got the Vikings beating the Packers but losing Kirk Cousins. That one's huge. That one is a complete bummer. Because you don't want to see a division rival go down because of an Achilles injury. That blows. Even when Aaron Rodgers went down. That's sad. That's not what you want. Will Levis against the Falcons showed why mayonnaise in your coffee is actually good for you. Saints were able to beat the Colts. Dolphins did what they do against the Patriots. Jets and Giants punted to a 13-10 victory for the Jets. I know I'm not saying the score for all of these, but it's been a while for these games. Commanders really make it close against the Eagles. I thought the Commanders were going to get that one because they played them so close in the previous game, in the previous matchup. A.J. Brown is now the record setter, or is now the number one receiver for, what is it? He beat Calvin Johnson's record of most consecutive 125-plus yard games. There's a lot of notes to that one, but that still just means that he's had a historically dominant stretch. That's what I like to do with those big stats. Just simplify it. That means that no one has done what he's done in the way he's done it. That's all the stat means. Panthers and Texans was a 2-rookie quarterback game. Browns and Seahawks. Seahawks were able to make it out alive. alive. Chiefs lose to the Broncos, which I knew was going to happen. You heard me say it on the GioMoShow picks last week, that there's no way that the Chiefs can do it 17 times after being so close the last time. Nuh-uh. I knew that would happen. Well, I knew it. Ravens put the Cardinals in their proper place. Bengals were able to beat the 49ers and drop the 49ers into questionable territory. Fraud watch territory. And then Bears and Chargers was the Bears trying. And the Chargers were kind of free to do what they wanted to do. And then the Lions and Raiders, we talked about that before. So that was a quick little peruse through this past week at the NFL, looking at the NFL scoreboard. But now we actually have time, like I didn't have last week. We now have time for your NFL Week 9 picks. We now have time for you to hear these picks live on the GioMoShow. This Thursday Night Football is going to be starting soon. And I'm going to give you my live picks as soon as I can get them up. Why can't I find my picks? Where'd they go? I'm going through CBS Sports' Pick'em League. I usually get yelled at by one of the people in my league to get these picks done. There's the angry email telling me to make my picks.